like Nikki's hands are on the right numbers right now, so it looks like 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We've got this, trying to observe spacing. If anybody here is uncomfortable or would like a mask, we've got masks available if anybody would care for one. Got a few minutes if you want to pick up one. No? Okay. The only thing I have by way of a chairman's report this evening is I do want to ask our commissioners to be thinking for our last meeting this month. We need a plan, we need to work an arrangement. Somebody's telling me to unmute my mic. Okay. Plan for the early distribution of SPLOST funds. We were able to issue bonds, sum of about $8.8 million. That SPLOST money was to fund certain projects throughout the county and to also make the money available for cities. For those special projects, though, the county commissioners, we probably need to see, we've got a number of requests for funds up front for various projects, and I think it'd be smart for us to go ahead and put together a plan that would be uniform in its application, and we'd be able to. Pardon me, I have to let these folks in too. And so I'd ask that you consider that. We'll discuss it on July 27th, and the commissioners want to vote on it to put it in place, codified or whatever, maybe August 3rd. We can turn that around real quick. Okay. We have no hearings or actions on zoning matters this evening, and we're at a place where we'll take statements and remarks from citizens on an agenda item. We have 2 agenda items this evening. That being to consider a lease purchase agreement for property located at 20 Albany Avenue, and then to consider a lease purchase agreement for a new facility for the Division of Family and Children's Services. There we go. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate that. And so what I'll do at this time, though, is I'm going to open the floor for statements and remarks from citizens on these agenda items. It is an opportunity for comment from citizens. It is just as a matter of clarification, I just want to point out that there is no requirement that that the commissioners, enter in any discussion on those items. This is an opportunity for the citizens to make remarks and bring up what you'd like. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open the floor and ask you to approach the podium and just let us know your name and your address, and take about 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll try to get as many people that want to speak on this. So with that, we'll open the floor.
How y'all doing? Thank you for opening this up for us for tonight. Public, I know everybody's really happy about that. I know I am. My name's Todd Higdon, 34 Samuel Court, Danielsville, Georgia. I am currently running for county chairman. Any vote on this particular matter, I would like for it to be postponed until at least after the election in August. And after that, do whatever you feel best. As far as the purchase of this 20 Albany Avenue, I would like to say, I feel that county tax dollars, I understand from what I've read in the paper, this is to expand the court system. I've not read from the Madison County Journal any request from the court system asking for additional space. Is this public knowledge, or is it just what y'all heard they've asked for? None of the judges has come before anybody and said, hey, we want to make more room. I talked to a couple of the judges and they said, it's really, we would like to have more room. Some of the circuit judges has asked for more room, but is it a need or a want? And they said, well, it was more or less a want, not a need. And this is what the judges has told me, a couple of them. So with that being said, getting back to the dollar figures, $325,000 purchase, I understand clearly. Probably about $225,000 for a remodel. This particular piece of property 8 years ago was decided upon by not this board, but the board prior to, not to purchase this building because of the cost. Anthony Dove told me we walked away from it because of the cost of the remodel. It wasn't beneficial for us at the time. I don't know yet what offices is going to go into the building because there's been no clarifications what the building is going to be used for. My understanding from a couple of department heads was we were going to move planning and zoning and possibly the tag office into this new structure. I've yet to know exactly what we're moving over there. Getting to the hard core of it, dollar figures. If you look at $200,000 remodel cost, $325,000 purchase, $525,000, then we have to remodel the building that we already own. Where those offices moved out, we could potentially be looking at $650,000 to $700,000 total to make this expansion of the court space. With that being said, everybody here knows, and everybody behind me knows, the county owns 47% of the land mass in Danisville. I feel like we can build, if it's just those two offices, now clearly I'm not clear on what's going in the building, but if it is just those two offices, we can do an expansion to the current building or some of the land that's already owned cheaper than $675,000 for two offices. Now, again, there may be more offices. I just don't know about it, nor I just think the public knows about it because I know I haven't seen anything in the paper about what exactly the building's purpose was. It was only to free up courtroom space. If y'all would like to clarify that, that may help us understand what the building's use is going to be. Keep in mind, the empty property that the county owns can build offices cheaper than purchasing and remodeling. That will draw money into the county for building. It will keep it on the tax base. As of right now, Mr. Lord owns the building. He is a taxpayer to the county on that piece of property, and he's also a taxpayer to the city on that piece of property. Once we remove that, you just took the only 53% of Danisville down to a lesser number of taxable property inside the city. And it reduces the tax revenue for the county. So all I'm asking is, guys, postpone this vote until we weigh all of our options. Can we build offices cheaper? Do we have locations that's buildable? Honestly, the property right beside it, which is vacant with no building on it, is cheaper than the $325,000. If it's location, buy Dr. Hoover's property. I think he still owns it. All he wants two buildings, buy an empty lot and build you two offices. You can do it cheaper than $675,000. Everybody knows, Tripp knows it because he's got a good background in building on building cost. That's all I have to say on this particular matter. Thank y'all.
Anybody else? I'm not hearing any, so if there's anybody that would choose to speak on these, this is for items 4 and 5. We're going to go ahead and close out the statements and remarks and move to the business portion. Very well. So before the commissioners is item 4, which is to consider the lease purchase agreement for property located at 20 Albany Avenue. We had a public hearing and there were some comments. You've heard comments tonight. The board's reason for considering this property was not necessarily identified as one particular office at this point. The need was discussed as a result of last year, our Superior Court Chief Justice approached us, and we were being considered for a fourth Superior Court judge. And the reason for that was the caseload. Madison County has the greatest percentage in the 5-court Northern Judicial Circuit. And the limitation is not the judges right now, it is the space to conduct court. So we have inside this building, we have 4 separate, let me back up, we have 3 separate court areas that we can conduct court. And we have days where all of those are in use. We have days where we have to reschedule some because of the actual caseload. Probate alone can have up to 400 people in one day here. So again, looking ahead, the building wasn't just the only consideration, it was actually the parking area, and it's the proximity to this facility that makes it important. So that was the basis for that consideration. The property owner also extended to county an arrangement where we would not have to truly finance this at an added cost to actually finance the entire purchase price. It is a lease purchase split up into 4 payments, and the county is able to absorb 1/4 of that each year for the next, it'll be a down payment, and then over the next 3 years, an even $81,200 per year for the next 3 years. So that's what was in consideration, and that was the basic underlying reasons for purchasing. We do have a requirement here as we look ahead for the tax commissioner's office, the tax assessor's office, and the planning and zoning were mentioned initially. We're also currently having to make arrangements for the Industrial Development Authority, which is homeless as we speak. It's got a temporary arrangement, but again, that's something that we need to keep in mind as we're looking at this space. So again, I'll open the floor for the commissioners. This first item is to consider the lease purchase agreement for the property located at 20 Albany Avenue. The purchase price is $325,000. And as it's presented here, we'll entertain a motion to approve the lease purchase agreement for property located at 20 Albany Avenue. Open the floor there.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion or comments on that item?
I just want to mention, we talked about repurposing a building. 30 years ago, we'd be sitting in the lunchroom and the auditorium area of our elementary school where Lee and I went, and probably Brian too. You can do as much or as little as you want to a building. If you go to Elbert County, they repurposed the school to be their courthouse, and they still have the chalkboards hanging on the wall. So it just depends on, we went all out, we made a nice building out of an old schoolhouse. You don't have to go to this extent to be able to use the building. Well, the chapel's new, fairly new in regards to the building, and it's a very workable place for a courtroom.
I'd like to echo the sentiment that while some may feel like it's an impromptu purchase at this point in time, but you know, my opinion is that from a landmass standpoint and developing the county campus, that it's an appropriate long-term purchase. So I think we're looking out for not just tomorrow, but for days after that as well.
And I would say we probably need to look at some of the land that we're not using and maybe think about auctioning that off.
Any other comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I didn't want to get too much in the weeds and I can ramble. So I wrote something down, just kind of keep me on track here. I'm in opposition of the purchase on Albany Avenue. I have many concerns and just can't vote yes on a project with so many uncertainties. And the amount of money needed to make it livable is not really known. It ended up being $500,000 or more. Makes me very uneasy from the business side of it. We don't know exactly what the use of the building is. And if court was to go in there, talking to the health department, the strain of that courtroom on that septic system is not proper. They need about 2,000 gallons of flow, and it's at 1,200 gallons right now. So that's an issue. The people who I serve have been very outspoken about this and with me with their opposition. And many have said they understand the need of space and even say, they've even said stuff about building something new on some property we have. They've had that same idea, but all feel like this is not the time to do this. I haven't had a single citizen speak up to me in favor of it. State's cutting their budget, and as usual, all the unfunded mandates and cuts will be passed right down to us at the local level to deal with. And we need to protect our reserve. We have a reserve now for the first time in a long time. We need to protect that reserve right now so we can, make sure we're more frugal and don't think we should take on any projects with this much uncertainty. Let's be real. When we first started talking about these, the world was a lot different. And I haven't named all the reasons for, opposition against this, but I'm trying to make, I think everyone can get the point I'm trying to make and the opinion I have. And so we can go back and forth about the pros and cons of this project, and others, but, timing has become the issue here in my forefront, and the people's overwhelming opposition of doing it right now. It's just like I said, it's just overwhelming. And at this point with this project and then with a couple other, or with the other, I really feel like that if we approve it, we're just throwing a checkbook on the counter. And that's not an attitude we can ever afford, especially today with what we're going through. And I think we can find another accommodations for the employees and state needs. I know we can, rather than the option we have in front of us tonight. So this too shall pass. And when we're ready to act, we can act then. But I don't think we're ready to act right now. So I'm in opposition of this.
Anybody else?
Well, let me say that I think that the location of the current building is something that should be taken into consideration because it is here close to the complex. And as you go out, and as I've been on the board for this last couple of years, we've had multiple requests for more areas. You can take, for example, the voter registration office over there. If you go over there and look at where the voting is done and where the equipment's kept, it is totally filled up. We've got to do something with that. Not only could this building be used for courtroom space, other departments, but it could also be used to house some of this other stuff. Because we're talking about, that they came to us with a suggestion to spend like $50,000 to add a lean-to the building over there that we currently own, which makes no sense whatsoever to me. I mean, it's basically, that's all it is a lean-to. And so, at least this is in proximity to the courthouse. It's in proximity. It's in a good location. It gives you multiple available departments where if you're coming over here and you've got to have between departments, they're all centrally located. That's what most counties are doing. I don't know what other land we've got here in the county, in Danielsville, that we could build on that we could wind up doing it cheaper. You know, I'd say that would be very difficult in my opinion. Now, you know, we could get some figures, but I still think it would be very, very difficult to do. So I'm in favor of this purchase.
Last comments? All right. Well, then we'll go to the vote on this then. So I have a motion and a second to approve the lease purchase agreement for the property located at 20 Albany Avenue. Vote to Commissioner Allen.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Our next item of business is the consider the lease purchase agreement for a new DFAC or new facility for the Division of Family and Children's Services. Again, just the kind of a recap on how this got to this point. The state submitted an RFP or released an RFP approximately a year ago, maybe a little bit more, for the construction of a DFACS facility in Madison County. There was a lot of conversation at that time. As I understand it, there was a bid that was a proposal rather that was submitted, and the State Property Commission has approved and awarded that project at this time to a developer in the Atlanta area. Total cost or the total amount of this project is in the neighborhood of $5 million. It is set up on a lease purchase, as we've mentioned here. Funds have been set aside by the state of Georgia through the State Property Commission to make payments and fund this facility over a 20-year period, 20 payments over 20 years. The county has through our county attorney and a bond attorney, we have looked and have considered the contractual arrangements, have met with the developer, have met with the legal representation of the developer, and have met with the lenders and their legal representation. The cost to the county, it is in essence, we're purchasing through a public purpose corporation this property and are leasing it to the state. And those payments for this lease would be paid by the state. Total cost to the county would be on those items that the county agreed to pay for or provide. Those were maintenance, basic maintenance services for the facility. And the cost, depending on inflation, is somewhere, it's broken out. The commissioners all have a copy, excuse me, of the line items that were computed per square foot for this facility. And we're looking, estimating on the low end, right around $200,000 over 20 years. Some of that is, again, accounted for in the services that Madison County already provides for maintenance on our own current facilities. And through inflation, upwards of $300,000 to $350,000. So that, again, is over the course of 20 years. When the discussion began, there were parameters that the state required. Those included a certain proximity from county government, from the government complex in our case. We've been asked about property that was further outlying, and again, through the state requirements, that did not meet the requirement. We were given the design, basically the square footage, the footprint of this facility, and through this lease arrangement is at year 7 and year 15, a refurbishment option, which equates to right at $140,000 each, paid for by the state. So what I would, the motion is to consider the lease purchase agreement for the new facility for the Division of Family and Children Services. For those questions that might need be directed at the county attorney, I've asked him to weigh in and give his thoughts on the arrangements that he and bond attorney Jim Woodward have negotiated, and if there are any questions with that. So if you want to entertain a motion, we can start it with that and then get into the discussion as appropriate. I'll turn this over to the board for their consideration. That public comment was, there's on the agenda, I offered the statements and remarks from citizens on any agenda item. That's when that would have been presented. In a public hearing we did, but not in this meeting. This has been our protocol since, well, this was a protocol before I started here. So
When was the public hearing?
that was last week.
It was Zoom meeting, which even board members agreed that it was not working out. People couldn't hear, people couldn't communicate.
I had one complaint about that, but that was last week, and that was a public hearing now. So this is I offered the opportunity for public comment already, though. Just please. No, sir. I said it was for all agenda items. This was sent out last week. This was sent out and it was published in the newspaper. This entire agenda. So, and this has been the format for the last 3.5 years I've been here. Every meeting, it has been this format. Nothing's changed for tonight. So.
Can I ask one question? Because there's still very little details. They're very important questions. And there's people here tonight that was not attending this meeting, or did not have access.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. If we're gonna have comment, can we open up it?
Yeah.
Should we open it up properly? I guess is my question. Instead of comment from the.
Right. Right. So what we need to do, there's an agenda item to consider this, and we're going to get to the discussion among the commissioners. But again, from my perspective, there was ample opportunity for those, even those that were there last week, to make comment, and we heard those comments. So the consideration right now is the lease purchase agreement, and at this point, I'll take a motion from the commissioners. I'm sorry. Listen, if you can't follow the rules here, though, I mean, we're past that point of having public comment on this. That was offered earlier, and I didn't rush through it. I gave everybody ample time. Yeah. So I don't know if this helps. I've got a microphone in front of me, and I'm trying. This is, Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll do. If it's the board's desire, if they would like to go back and take public statements from the public on this item right now, do we have consent to do that?
I'd make that recommendation.
All right. So we'll go ahead and do that then. If you'd like to make a statement or remark regarding the DFAX arrangement.
I would, from Josh Chandler, 887 Rock Quarry Road, Danielsville, Georgia. I do appreciate the opening, more back up the comment, apologize for confusing, sorry, I was over here back then, I did understand the comment portion to only be at that time. So thank you again for allowing comment. Concerns that I have as a taxpayer, nobody on this board submitted a response to that RFP. Nowhere in that RFP was it mentioned that the county was going to be the one providing the facility, that the county was going to be the developer, that the county was going to be the landlord. Yet here we are voting the taxpayers to own debt, the taxpayers to end up maintaining the facility that the taxpayers never responded to offer to do for the state of Georgia. You know, when we take on debt as a county, when we take on projects as a county, we've obviously, as John mentioned, they've been working on this for a year and a half, 2 years. Some of our staff, our council's been working on it. We've obviously invested as taxpayers into this facility already unwillingly. When we do invest our resources from our staff, our legal counsel, it should be for the benefit of the taxpayers. I've asked several of you individually, I've asked a lot of people in the community, what is the net gain to the county, to the taxpayers for owning and providing this facility? The facility will not be on the tax digest. There's no tax revenue for it. It's taking another piece of commercial property off the digest in Danielsville. Again, there's no net gain to the citizens for owning this facility. One comment I tried to make last week in the Zoom meeting, and it's been said that at the end of the term, the county will own the building. Well, again, a year and a half ago, was the county out soliciting a facility for any reason or for our needs? You know, you just voted to purchase a facility tonight for expanding the court space. So if the goal is to acquire more facilities, this sure seems like a long-range plan to get there. At the end of that 20-year lease, the DFACS is not gonna want to move. They're still gonna want to occupy the facility. So it's the purpose to become property managers. If it is, I don't think that's y'all's role. You're in the wrong lane. That's not serving the interest of the taxpayers of the county. Again, I just haven't heard anybody make a definitive comment why I, as a taxpayer, should be excited about this. You know, it's been said that this is a gift for the people that use DFACS, the people that use the services that DFACS offers. The services DFACS offers is not going to change just because of the facility that they're in. So to sell it as that is an insult to the people in the county. So I would strongly urge you not to approve this, or at least not to discuss it again until more information can be provided to the people that are going to own the debt, own the facility, and maintain it, and that is us taxpayers. Thank you.
Hey, John, if I could ask the question, you are the leaser of the, well, we're the leaser of the current building, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I understand that lease has been terminated, is that correct?
That lease expired based on the state's terms, June 30th. They're still
June 30th.
occupying the facility, but their lease, they did not choose to renew.
Okay, I just want clarification.
I don't know why that is relevant to the discussion, but
And clarification, I just wanted to understand that.
the lease wasn't terminated, it expired. The expiration on the lease was June 30th.
On June 30th, that's right. So did it expire every year on June 30th?
It's an annual lease. And
Annual lease.
this particular lease, when the state wrote it last year, you're the landlord of the state, don't get the right to lease. It was a 12-month term with no option to renew.
Okay,
That was their.
thank you very much for bearing that.
Again, like Josh, I would like to say thank you for opening it back up. It's so much easier to do this face to face. I really appreciate it. I've yet to hear details on how the money's going to be handled. Is the developer the one that's going to receive the rent checks, or is the county getting the rent checks? And do we know what the rent checks are yet? Do we have a dollar figure? And I have a reason for this. Do y'all know yet who's getting the money? I mean, I don't want to vote on something, and that's not even know who's going to handle the money. And the reason I say is because in a city meeting, the developer pointed out at the end of that 20 years, the building will become the county's. And that's what we as taxpayers will get. a nice building. It's only 20 years old. But those payments that whoever y'all know is going to be collecting those will then stop. And we will get 5%, correct? 5% is what you said in the city meeting.
Yeah, just talk to us. Talk to us
I
though.
know, but I'm trying to clarify what
I know,
we're getting.
just
Okay.
keep it pointed this way.
So, what are we getting for rent? How much is the dollar amount? We can't make a vote if we don't even know what the dollars are.
There's a schedule. They have that schedule.
What is the schedule? We're here to vote. We need to know what our numbers
But
are.
they're here to vote, but,
Yes, that's what I say.
there's an average lease payment of about $365,000 a year,
Per year.
per year.
All right, so per year. So if that gets cut to 5%, as the developer stated, to the mayor, myself, and council members, 5% is what you will receive to maintain that building for the next 50 years, if DFAX chooses to stay in the building.
If the county chooses to allow DFAX to stay in that building too.
True.
Correct.
If they don't, now you have a 14,000 square foot building that's paid for that we have to do something with. And therefore, again, we go back into the property management building, as Josh stated. We have to lease it, rent it to somebody, or occupy it.
What are we doing to this building right here?
I understand that.
Do we not manage this piece of
I
property?
understand, but eventually you have more buildings than you have people to put in them. At a 14,000 square foot building, now remember this, $5 million, 14,000. You know what it costs to put 2 air conditioning units on a 14,000 square foot building? Upwards of 40 grand. 20 years is the life expectancy. You're gonna start buying plumbing, you're gonna start buying electrical, you start buying heating and air, and you gotta do your regular maintenance utilities. Will that 5% of the magic number cover that debt? Or are we just inheriting more debt? I've not heard, along with Josh and along with what Mr. Allen said earlier, I've not heard any citizen yet say anything positive about it. And it's not the building, guys, it's DFAX from the state down. My wife's best friend is District 5 DFAX supervisor. She knows nothing of this project. She's over the Danielsville, all right? Because that's handled on the state property side. And she asked me, Todd, why? And she said, we're down to a skeleton crew and it's not coming back. So if we've got 20 employees in a DFAX building now that occupies about 4,500 square foot of the 7,000 square foot building you're in, actual occupies, why would we build a building twice the size with half the staff? Just wondering. DFAX closed 53 offices this year. Madison County wasn't one of them. But by their performance, they are on the hit list. Now, I know there's a clause that says the state can opt out. And I also know there's a clause that says the county can opt out. $5 million somewhere somebody's going to owe. If the developer goes bankrupt, state done opted out, the county got an option out, and if he gets an option out, now who owns the building? These are all questions that have to have answers before you can make a vote on something this important. That's all I'm saying. Thank y'all very much for your time.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Bill Berryman. I'm an attorney. I live at 742 Riverville Drive in Athens. And I'm here representing Municipal Development Services, Mr. Don Chandler, Mr. Douglas Chandler. They are the developers in this transaction. And I know that all of you have a great deal of detail about this project. And just a couple of points I want to make based upon Mr. Hicker's statements. The first is that this is an investment for Madison County. Basically, for the cost of the land purchased from the Board of Education, Madison County in 20 years will get a 13,800 square foot building on 7 acres of land in downtown Denver. The other point I'd like to make is there's been, the rent checks come to Madison County. There's a sublease between Madison County and the State Properties Commission. All those rent checks come to Madison County. There is a loan involved And a lot of those payments are for debt service. Some are for the expenses. The rest of it, Madison County will pay for some maintenance costs and do some kind services. But essentially, for the cost of the land, you were buying this building. You were getting this building for free. The other thing is about a default or bankruptcy. Mr. Chandler has been in this business for 25 years. He's developed these projects, these DFAX buildings all over the state, the counties. He knows how to manage money. He knows how to get these projects in on time. There's a bank that's going to be monitoring the performance of this. So there just really is no risk at all of a construction default. So if you pass this tonight, you're going to get a building, and you're going to get a building that comes in on time, under budget, and is ready to serve the people of this community. So thank you very much for considering this. If you have any questions, we're all here to answer your questions.
Anybody else?
Good evening, Gina Ward, 1709 Wagner's Grove Church Road. I had initially decided not to speak this evening, but I can't hold my tongue because you're talking about investing in a building. Last week, I asked you to invest in my health. This week, I'm asking you to invest in our dirt roads. I'm asking you to invest in places that mean something to those people out there that visit DFAX, that drive around this county. I remember 10 years ago standing before Chairman Dove begging him to fix my dirt road. And the answer was always, we don't have any money for that. Well, if you have money to spend on this county right now, will you please spend it on the people and not buildings? Thank you.
Anybody else? Be brief, please. I mean, we don't give every.
Just follow up to two comments that were made. One, a gift to the county. Again, what gift is it to the taxpayers if there's no benefit to the taxpayers? A building that's owned by the county in the city of Danielsville is no benefit to me as a Madison County taxpayer. Again, DFAX in 20 years is not going to be wanting to be kicked out of their facility, or they'll be in the same shape they're in now and be wanting to move. Mr. Kirk, you made reference to the lease I have with them now. I think you said a 360, again, the public doesn't have these numbers, but $360,000 a year rental payment.
Right.
If I understood that correctly, that works out to about $25 or $26 a square foot. Right now they're paying $7. So you tell me if this is a wise use of not only our Madison County tax dollars, but also state funds. These are all state funds when it comes down to it. All taxpayer dollars, whether they're funneled from the state through the developer to us for this facility, it's all taxpayer dollars. I don't think this is a wise use of local dollars or state dollars. So thank you.
Josh, while you're here, I'm not trying to pick anything. Lord knows I've been through enough with y'all. Respect your family. Respect you. We were told that they were basically told they could not come back into this facility, that they are homeless right now. Is that true?
That is not true.
That is not true. You did not evict them. You didn't send them a letter stating that you were not going to renew the lease.
Their lease expires, and by the terms of the lease, we renegotiate. They chose not to renegotiate the lease. So.
Okay.
And I'm confused at how a conversation with me and my attorney and the state have made it to the Board of Commissioners. That's a curiosity. Anybody want to enlighten me on that?
I was just trying to clarify the issue that, about whether or not
Anytime the lease expires, the parties come to new terms,
Right.
or they don't.
I understand.
They
That's
chose
why
not
I
to
just
have
asked for clarification. I don't mistake that I'm asking out of any ill will or anything. I was just asking, trying to understand.
And I'm not hiding from the question. I'll be happy to answer anything else anybody wants to know about my current arrangement with the Department of Family and Children's Services as a tenant. Foster, anybody? Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Do one more response here, and then that's
The property that's in question here is already taxed, because it's owned by the Board of Education. So it's not like we take the property off the tax rolls. The other thing is that the bulk of the money that's used to finance this project is coming from the state of Georgia, not from local taxpayers. And the fact that all of the alleged cancellation of all these leases by the state that Mr. Chandler referred to, that just didn't happen. Thank you.
okay. Is there anybody that hasn't spoken yet that would like to speak?
Yes. My name is Michael McElroy. I'm right at the Hall Road. Who pays the state taxes? Well, don't I pay state taxes too? Am I not paying for this one way or another? I know it's probably a waste of time talking to you guys. You like to put your names on things. This is your job. And build stuff, put your name on it. But I'm a citizen and I'm opposed to it, so that's it.
Is there anybody else?
Tired of doing this.
Now, if you want to make comments, Mr. McAvoy, you're welcome to make them out there, though, please. I gave you the floor. I just asked that you. All right. All right. We satisfied with the? Okay. And I don't know if it would be appropriate for the commissioners, if there were questions or if there was anything that was left unexplained or whatever through the conversations with the county attorney and the bond attorney with the lenders and the developers, if they would have questions of the county attorney by chance, if there's anything that they would feel necessary or comfortable asking.
Some of the questions that I still have that I'm not clear on is the relationship after construction. I'm confident, that whoever it would be, whether it's Mr. Chandler, somebody else, you come in, build and move forward because of the construction loan. And I'm not opposed to a private partner development. These things are happening all over in the country, and I've been involved with several of them, and they're happening. And I'm not opposed to that arrangement. However, I still have questions on the difference. I'm going to ask the question correctly. It's been stated, the language in the contract and the law and whatnot, there's the provision of non-renewal, you can walk away from it, that general conversation, and there's been, I don't use the term no risk, but somewhere there's a pro and there's a con, and I'm still not clear on the risk to the county government on if there is a default. I understand that the state has never done it. I also understand we've never had COVID, and I also understand that that we're doing things differently, and I don't have a clear understanding of what we are at risk of if the payment is not made. If the state terminates the lease, which they have every right to, somebody will still want to get paid, and there's a risk there somewhere that somebody is going to absorb, whether it's via an insurance payment or somewhere down the road, somebody needs something to settle score. And I still don't have a clear understanding of the mechanism after construction. I understand the lease, the state pays the lease, payment gets made to retire the debt. What's the what if scenario that I still don't have a clear comfort level with. So if the state not appropriated in any given year, exercise their right to terminate, the county has a corresponding right to terminate. The bank would take the land, the building, the maintenance and capital improvement funds, all the things they have liens on. The county's not liable to be sued for a deficiency, because these purchases don't work that way. But it, you know, by the same token, the county would not be able to do any kind of public financing for a long time after that. It would be considered a default by bank and credit union. The other risk to the county is, so the principal and interest payments are roughly $337,000 a year. The lease payments from the state vary from the low 350s to a high of around 370, depending on where we are on funding those payments to the capital improvement funds. Everybody acknowledges there's some, you know, it costs more than that to do the capital improvement for maintenance. You know, using various estimates, we come up with anything from 200,000 to 350,000. All of those are estimates. Any of them could be more or less. By the nature of the arrangement, the state only makes the lease payments and provides janitorial and utilities. The county provides all other maintenance and operations in accordance with, you know, the requirements of the state that are all set out in our lease.
So there's one other, you know, an interesting fact here too, and that's the state can not appropriate. It's a possibility. Whether we'd agree that it's a probability is a different subject. The county would, again, as our county attorney has pointed out, there might be an impact on our bond rating, if you will. Okay. The state conversely has a concern about non appropriating at that point too, though. And they deal not in millions, but in billions. And for them to non appropriate jeopardizes a bond rating that the state holds and has held for a number of years. That would be immensely more impacting on their credit worthiness. Excuse me, their credit worthiness. So again, I don't think, you know, you're 100% right. There are no absolutes here, but again, I would tell you that I think the state's view of this project, and in direct conversations with the State Property Commission, I do not, this is not, this is a new construction lease. This is not one with an existing facility. The appropriation is for the full 20 years worth of payments. There are a lot of different considerations that I think that, you know, should be considered as part of this too. You know, do we have property that we maintain? Sure we do. We maintain every piece of property in this county, and there are expenses associated with every one of those facilities. So I don't, the important thing in this arrangement is to determine and disclose what those costs are. And that's where the maintenance expenses of $200,000 to $350,000 over the 20-year lease come in. But again, if you'd had that property, if the county had to buy that property and make it as part of the deal, you had your $300,000 in it up front to start with, if that was their choice to do it that way, if it was a possibility to do it that way. So the answer is, you know, there's definitely things that all you can do is mitigate, you can't eliminate. And so through many discussions, though, I feel the details have been worked on and ironed out. And it is unfortunate that we really haven't had the opportunity to, those documents are just becoming final. So to put them out previously, and I know we had some preliminary draft documents, but those were in need of fine tuning, and they have been. So that information, has been truly a work in progress. And like any arrangement, I mean, we're trying to do the best and the due diligence on these figures. So I just want to make sure that we went to the length to have a bond attorney assist our county attorney and work with them. And again, I think, and I'll leave it to Mike to speak for himself. But that's all that has taken place, and I believe those concerns were largely mitigated, though. The action item on the table, though, is to consider this lease purchase. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to entertain, and we have been working this project now for a year. That is a fact. There's nothing speedy or rushed on this. So I feel like we should, we've had it on the table, except that the commissioners have a compelling reason that they'd want to. I don't know that time would matter if extending or doing anything would matter. So we do know that through the state that this is a current offer. I don't know that I don't know that it won't, but I don't know that it would continue to be an offer if it's delayed. So with that,
I want to answer Josh's question as far as his attorney and the conversations there. We were reached out to find a place to put this stuff, the records and all that kind of stuff. That's the only reason I know anything about that.
True. So with that, though, I'll put it before the commissioners for a motion to consider the lease purchase on the DFAC facility.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, since the documents are still not quite finished yet.
Right.
I actually had another fairly lengthy conversation with the development attorney this afternoon. He worked over the weekend redrafting these things. There's still a few things that we agreed to that just haven't made it in documents yet. He said they have no objection to it. So the wording he suggested, and I agree with this, if you did want to approve the project tonight, would be to approve it subject to final revisions and approved by the county. Such approval being evidenced by the chairman's signature. Basically, the chairman to make sure those things make it in the documents before it's signed.
Was that the stuff that Jim Woodward's been trying to get into?
Yeah, so we had about an almost 2-hour phone call with everybody last Wednesday, where we agreed on a lot of the contentious points. Again, they worked over the weekend, we drafted it. It's just not quite finished yet, but I think we have agreement in principle. So if you approve it tonight, we don't actually have the final documents for you, but you'll be leaving it to the chairman to make sure those changes get in there before they're signed.
And I wouldn't do it unilaterally. I'd make sure that we had at least legal counsel and other, input on that. But so what is the desire of the board?
Well, I can't speak for my colleagues, but I mean, I got what I would say, whether it's the draft or final draft today, and it's 30-some odd pages long.
Right.
I've not had a chance to look at it, so it's in my position at this point in time. I'm uncomfortable moving forward directly with it. If the group would agree to, postpone towards our table to the end of the month where I have an opportunity to review it. But right now, I'd hate to say that I don't know what's in the document completely or not.
Would this could this be remedied with a called meeting, a week, 2 weeks from now? Would that suffice? Would that give you enough time? A special call meeting. I'm just asking.
When will the documents be to the point of,
I just don't feel comfortable without
I
the
guess
final
my,
documents.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable without the final documents. Like, I mean, I just got these numbers today and I would,
We all did, we just
Yeah,
all
right.
got it today.
so,
Well, and again, it was as a result of the workings that was,
Right.
with the, but,
so what's the difference between 2 weeks and 3 weeks? I'm just trying to,
well, and the only reason I mention this is because we did have to ask for special dispensation just to move it out this far. We keep moving it from the,
we haven't had the final documents, that's
Right.
the one, that's why. So. we just want-
I would ask either Mr. Behrman or Carlos, either one. I don't know when, if they're asking for the final documentations, the rewrites, the whatever the additions were, is that something that could be put together? And I say short order. I'm looking for a time. That's all.
Yeah, we could certainly finalize the Carlos and see this with Olson and Brother legal representation for the developer.
I'm sorry for that.
We could certainly finalize the documents this week. Like Mr. Pruitt and I spoke on the phone while we were on the way up here, and we are in agreement with all the final points that were remaining to be addressed. So I'm confident that we will get there, and I apologize that they were not. We were working on them together, and the lenders council also had input. So that's why there's various parties that needed to be satisfied here. But we've reached the point where we've reached consensus on the major deal points. And so I think we will have that. It's just a matter of fine tuning a few final provisions in the agreement. And if there's any questions about what's remaining or anything, we'd be happy to help answer those questions.
Is that satisfactory? I'm just asking.
If we can get the documents, but from a timing standpoint, let's say it's a week. I don't know how long. I'm just saying this. If it's a week, we took a vote tonight. Some people may appreciate it, some people may not. However, that document was public.
Mhm.
And, so I would think the final revisions, and I understand there's final tweaking here and there, but a formal document that can be presented as what we would be asked to vote on or vote against, whatever time it takes to do that, and then the time for publication. And I guess I don't see that happening probably before our normally scheduled meeting.
By publication, you mean as an agenda document?
Yeah. I'll defer to the county attorney, but unless there's some proprietary language that this can't be publicized, I don't know it.
No, it's all public.
Yeah.
We get it finalized.
No, as soon as it's made available, it would be put on a website. How about that?
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Well, if that's the requirement of the board, then we'll do it that way. Like I said, I'm just looking for a time frame to be able to schedule and what have you. But if the board is amenable to doing that, I understand this is a domino effect, and it affects ideas and concerns for both the state. The lender has deadlines or has dates on their documents as well. So I think it would be most prudent to get that copy as soon as we can, and then we'll establish a date and circulate that among you, the commissioners, and upon receipt, we'll make it public, and we'll try to get this done as quick as we can. Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
And I'm asking all of you, not just Derek. I don't want to leave anybody out. Okay. All right. So the official action is no action on this tonight. We will postpone it again to receipt of the final documents and make those available immediately and try to get this resolved. So we'll put that out on our county website upon receipt and try our best to. I don't think publishing a 30 or 40 page document is prudent in a local newspaper, but we'll make it available electronically immediately though. Is there any other, do we need to take do they need to vote to postpone?
It can either go down as no action, or you can take a vote to postpone to an indefinite date. It doesn't matter which.
I think no action pretty much sums that up, and we'll put it back on the agenda or have if it's the board's desire to have a special call meeting and conduct business then. If you're in agreement. Is everybody good with that? Okay. All right. New business, I don't have anything by way of roads, any issues. Okay.
Couple potholes on Amberley. What is that?
Amberley Drive, county line. Okay, anything? Urgent matters, anyone? Executive? All right, we just need a motion to adjourn. I have a motion and a second. We're adjourned.